Welcome everybody. I'd like to make a warm welcome to everyone and thank you for participating in this event today, the Indonesia Mining and Metal Investment Roundtable. My name is Kathleen Turner and I will be moderating the event for today. I'd like to kindly acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Khatulistiwa Legowo, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Australia and the Republic of Vanuatu. I'd also like to make a very warm welcome to all the consuls of Consulate General Office in Australia, including Mr. Vedi Kudia Buana, Consul General of Indonesia in Sydney, Mr. Conchoro Giri Waseso, Consul General of Indonesia in Melbourne, Mrs. Listiana Operananta, Consul General of Indonesia in Perth. I'd also like to acknowledge Pak Vedi Kuniabuana and his team for his and their collaboration in organising this event, together with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, the Ministry of Investment, MKU Services, the Indonesian Investment Promotion Centre, and Indonesia Trading House, Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very senior suite of speakers for today's roundtable. So may I kindly acknowledge our speakers for today. As mentioned, our first speaker who will be giving welcoming remarks will be His Excellency Khatulistiwa Legowo, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia in Canberra. Dr. Ridwan Jamaluddin, the Director General for Mineral and Coal, Indonesia Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Mr. Nurul Ikhwan, Deputy Chairman for Investment Planning, Indonesian Ministry of Investment, or BKPM. Mr. Bede Evans, President Director of PT Sumbawa Timur Mining. And Mr. Sony Damawan, the Commercial Director of MKU. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be a 2-hour roundtable where we will hear from speakers, 5 of them with approximately 30 minutes allocated for question and answer time. I encourage those who have questions during our speaker sessions to note that you have a question or query in the chat box and to include your name and organisation, and I will note these when it comes to the Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, this virtual roundtable is foremost about opportunity. We have a mining sector in Indonesia that continues to demonstrate increasing opportunity in an operating landscape where the demand for metals is growing and will only continue to surge. Our speakers will be presenting a range of mining and smelting facility projects in Indonesia. And they will also be outlining a policy and regulatory environment that is providing greater certainty and attractive concessions for the industry and for the investor alike. As I mentioned earlier, there will be an opportunity for participants to ask questions of speakers, and I certainly encourage you to note your lines of inquiry that you might like to pursue as the roundtable progresses. Please also bear in mind that the Mines and Mining Investors Online Forum, which is the leading international event series connecting investors from around the world with mining company management teams, will be held from the 19th to the 21st of October. This will be a very relevant opportunity for investors to meet with project owners and to discuss the projects that we will outline today in greater detail. We will now be presenting a brief opening video, the best mining investment opportunities in the Republic of Indonesia for 2021-2022. However, if you could bear with me, before the video, I'd like to take the liberty of pointing out some very key regulatory changes which have recently been implemented in Indonesia and provide for a more investor-friendly environment. These will be extrapolated further by our speakers, but I'd like to point out some of the highlights here. Firstly, the government is allowing transfer of ownership in between stages of mining operations. What this means is that more junior mining companies, will now be able to participate. This is in contrast to regulations which previously required foreign investors to handle all stages of mining operations, which necessitated large capital to invest. The other highlight is divestment regulation. So divestment regulation offers a gradual or incremental approach to divestment for foreign investors, whereby those with share ownership of more than 51% can divest their shares over a gradual period of time. And thirdly, an electronic platform which provides for a more uniformed approach to licensing, permitting, all the way to taxation payments is now being executed. What this essentially means for business is that they are now dealing with a centralized and automated process of service provision. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce this brief opening video, the best mining investment opportunities in the Republic of Indonesia for 21-22.
The Republic of Indonesia is known for its abundance of precious metal deposits among many others. Indonesia produces around 5% of the world's gold production. The biggest nickel reserve in the world accounted for 4% of the world's bauxite reserves. The government is promoting its best mining investment opportunities and has made several groundbreaking changes on the systems and regulations to further promote the national economy through foreign investments, such as introducing a centralized online platform for business licensing, online platform for tax filing/payment, transferable business permit ownership in between mining stages, and many others. The investment opportunities promoted by the government covers various stages starting from greenfield opportunities, mining projects to refining projects. In the mining stages, the government is promoting 3 of its highest potential gold and copper mining projects spread across 6 blocks. Lastly, in the downstream stages, the government is promoting 5 nickel smelter and 1 coal to methanol refining projects, all at strategic locations.
Indonesian government already published Mineral and Coal Law No. 3, 2020, which amend the previous Mineral and Coal Law No. 4, 2009. The new law contains 4 key points. 1. Centralized mining authority. 2. Transfer of licenses and shares and divestment of foreign ownership. 3. New obligation and incentives for mining permit holders. 4. Continuation of operation of contract of work and coal contract of work. The Law No. 3, 2020 can overcome some problems which were not covered by previous law and can strengthen good mining practices and to assure legal certainty to all stakeholders in mining sectors.
The Republic of Indonesia welcomes you with open arms to invest and be a part of the successful economic growth as we build the foundation towards a better tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this roundtable event, His Excellency Cristiano Legowo, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Australia and the Republic of Vanuatu. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much, Ibu Kathleen Turner, for the very kind introduction. Yang saya hormati Bapak Dr. Redwan Jamaluddin, Director General for Minerals and Coal, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources of Indonesia, Bapak Nurul Ikhwan, Deputy Chairman for Investment Planning, Ministry of Investment of Indonesia, Mr. Beat Evans, President Director of PT Sumbawa Timur Mining and PT Will Eksplorasi Indonesia, Pak Sony Darmawan, Commercial Director of IMKU, Pak Fedi Kurnia Buana, our Consul General in Sydney, and as I understand, my colleague, from Perth and Melbourne, our Consul General in Perth, Ibu Listi, and also Pak Kunchoro in Melbourne are also joining this event. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from Canberra and good morning to everyone who are in Indonesia. It is my great pleasure to welcome our speakers and participants to the roundtable discussion on mining and metals investment business forum. Allow me to first of all thank our Consulate General in Sydney and IIPC in Sydney also, the Indonesian Energy and Mineral Resources Ministry, MKU Services, and also Indonesia Trading House Australia for holding this important event. Mining and mineral sectors is no doubt the most important sector in Australia. The two made up the Australia largest export industries, and the sector has generated more export revenue than all other sectors put together. The sector accounted for more than 60% of Australia's export in the past few years. To the best of my knowledge, in investment and economic standpoint, the sector's strength is not less pronounced. 35% of FDI in Australia is directed to the sector, accounting for more than $36 billion of investment. The industries have delivered a 10.4% share of the Australian economy, making it the largest contributor to GDP with annual $200 billion of contribution. The sector has also supported more than 1 million jobs across Australia, or 10% of the total employment. This event, therefore, could be the key to open new opportunities in the effort to progress Indonesia and Australia economic cooperation and partnership and to recover from the global pandemic of COVID-19. As mentioned above, this mining and mineral sector show resilience during the pandemic. It remains as a reliable sector in its economic value, and its economic values remain crucial for both countries. Mining and mineral sector is essential for any other sectors. In addition to being used for existing purposes, such as in conventional energy, constructions, transportation, and manufacture, this sector also sees prospects to be developed further. New industries, such as electric vehicles and renewable energies, will still rely heavily to the mining and mineral sector. The prospect of the new industry in particular is very exciting again. It's very exciting for Indonesia and Australia. In battery industries, for example, the lithium, which is abundant in Australia, and nickel, cobalt, manganese, and also graphite, which Indonesia holds a great deposit, would make a match for a world-leading battery producers. This prospect is even more promising when we take a deeper look into what lies between Australia and Indonesia. Australia must see Indonesia as potential investment partner. Indonesia has all the reasons to become investment destination for Australia businesses. We have a close geographical proximity. We are both G20 members, and more importantly, our bilateral relations have reached new height with the entry into force of the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement on the 5th of July 2020. The forward-looking economic deal has received so many supports from stakeholders, especially in mining and mineral sectors. The highest valued investment from Australia is the mining sector, with total investment of $2.4 million in 31 projects. With the ASEPA, Indonesia committed to provide greater certainty for Australia's mining and mineral firms. It allows Australian companies to own up to 67% of mining services in Indonesia, up from 49% before. It was mentioned before by Ibu Kathleen Turner in his opening remark. This, which includes contract mining at metallic, non-metallic, and also coal mining sites. Indonesia's investment commitment commitments under IASEPA also include the following key aspects. The most favorite nations principle, ensuring that should Indonesia provide better outcomes to investors of a third country under a future trade agreement, Australian investors will gain the same or even better treatment. And the second one is the national treatment principle, affirms that the Australian investor will be accorded treatment no less favorable than Indonesia accords to its own investors. Distinguished participants, in line with the IASEPA, the mining law, which was amended last year, will only provide mining businesses more certainty. It ensures the flow of the mining business in Indonesia. It provides incentives to support downstreaming projects. It aims also to involve more people's contribution and to strengthen state-owned enterprises. This way, Australian and Indonesian mining firms may gain mutual benefit and further our cooperation to the new height. To close, I acknowledge this event as a very important means to explore new opportunities in mining and mineral sectors. I believe it is our interest to grow together and to contribute in strengthening our relations. So thank you so much for joining this event, but more importantly, thank you so much for being part of the better relations between Indonesia and Australia. I wish you a very productive discussion. May God bless Indonesia, may God bless Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your opening remarks and the importance of the economic bilateral relationship between Australia and Indonesia. I'd now like to introduce our second speaker for this event, Dr. Ridwan Jamaluddin, Director General for Minerals and Coal, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in Indonesia. Thank you, Dr. Ridwan.
Thank you, Kathleen. Very good morning from Jakarta. Good afternoon in Australia. Bapak Duta Besar, His Excellency Pak Kristianto Legowo, and all the Consul Generals, private sector leaders, Pak Ikhwan from EKPM, and all colleagues participating in this discussion. It's really a good opportunity for us at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources to have this forum this morning, because as a matter of fact, during this pandemic situation in Indonesia, mining sector is one of the backbones of Indonesian effort to recover its economy. Just lately, in the last few weeks or so, the commodities prices are very high. So it's a good sign that sector is a promising industry in the future. So as Excellency Ambassador mentioned, that the relationship between Indonesia and Australia is getting better and better. We also would like to take this opportunity to promote more and better opportunities of mining investment in Indonesia. Let me share with you some information that we developed recently. Number one is about the mining law, the transformation in Indonesia based on the latest mining law, law number 3/2020. And second, some important reasons why you need to consider to invest in mining sector in Indonesia. Next slide, please. One is centralized mining authority. Indonesia is a large country, diverse and archipelagic in its configuration. So with the dynamics of regional authority, for example, I understand that there have been some issues relating to bureaucratic processes. Now, under this law, it is practically centralized in a good sense, in a good perspective. We are trying to manage the bureaucratic processes under one platform. And also the government, is trying hard to provide better facilitation to private sectors. Just recently, we have a discussion on how to facilitate private sectors in acquire AMDAL, the Environment Impact Assessment permit, for example. And we are also discussing how to support the private sectors in land acquisition, especially in forest area. So with those efforts, we are trying hard to provide a better ecosystem in the investment in mining sectors. Second, as it is also described in the video, the transfer of licenses and share and the divestment of foreign ownership is now open and made easier. Well, we understand that we need foreign direct investment, but we also need to maintain the ownership of the natural resources. The good thing in this context is the gradual processes. So it's will be divided into some mining practices, but again, the gradual approach is a keyword in this context. Next, about the new obligation and incentives. For example, the reclamation or the post-mining activities from the enterprise's point of view, of course, it's an obligation, but if we consider the future use or the future needs of the next generation is very important. That's why, for example, in this reclamation and post-mining obligation is very much emphasized in this law number 20. Law number 3, 2020. Then incentives. As I also mentioned, the effort of Indonesian government to provide better services like facilitation for the environmental impact assessment, but there also has been some guarantee in terms of certainty of the extension of the license. So I understand that also, but in the business process, certainty is a very important word. That's why the continuation of operation of contract of work is guaranteed to be extended under this new law. Also, the effort of value addition, it's also one of the important programs. Value additions mean higher value, better job opportunities, and also better impact to the local communities. And on the other hand, we also consider this in line with the spirit of reducing, in terms of coal, is reducing CO2 emission by processing the coal into other products. Next slide. Some reasons I would like to convince a potential investor why invest in mining sector in Indonesia, although as I seen on the screen, there are already some CEOs also operating Australian-based operating companies in Indonesia. But again, just would like to share with you that Indonesia has a significant amount of resource and reserve in terms of minerals. Access to global market. We have access to global market. We have, there are already experienced operating companies in Indonesia, and would like also to share with you that the cash cost is lower. And as I also mentioned earlier, that the high environmental safety standard is very important. Then labor availability. If we go to the next slide, it's general information that nickel, Indonesia is the number 1, bauxite 6, copper 7, gold 5, 10, second, coal number 6, in terms of world reserve, and then world production. It's not always the same, but it's quite similar. when we see the rank, for example, gold and copper, we are 7 in world, but production we are 12, meaning that we need to improve the productivity of this copper mining in Indonesia. Next slide. Experience of operating companies. Here we have nickel. There are 2,292 mining licenses. For example, Vale, and there are 12 smelters in operation. Bauxite, we have 98 licenses. Copper, we have 24. Gold, 142. Tin, 537 licenses. And coal, we have 1,228 mining licenses. So again, these numbers clearly show us they are already experienced operating companies in Indonesia. Next slide. In terms of production costs, in general, I can say that in Indonesia, the production cost is lower. As we can see here in the graph, yellow is the production cost of mining industries in Indonesia, and in gray is other countries in general. In nickel, the production cost, for example, is $3.6 per pound, as opposed to $5 per pound in other countries. Coal as well, gold, tin, copper, and bauxite. Again, this is a good aspect to be considered for future investors in Indonesia. Next, as I mentioned again, the high environment and safety standard. By promoting this environmental and safety standard, of course, number one, we consider the right of the future generation, but on the other hand, we need to convince the banking sector or financial sector to support these mining industries by proving that we care about the environment in mining industries in Indonesia. To implement this, the environmental permit and other supporting permit is clearly described, reclamation and post-mining, and it's also permit to use the forest area. As I mentioned earlier, that we work very closely with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry to promote a better services to private sectors. Next, we maintain very high standard and environment, try to reach zero accident by implementing occupational health and safety, operational safety, as well as mining safety. On the other hand, we also understand that there are some news about the accident, but those accidents happen in the illegal mining practices, not at the legal mining licenses area. Next, the availability of workforce. In general, we have about 23,000 engineers and technicians basically ready to support the mining industries. We have mining engineering graduates. We have good school for this. We have metallurgy, materials and chemical engineering, geophysics, as well as geology. So again, we have a duplicate number of readily available workforce to support the mining industries in Indonesia. Last slide, I would like to share with you that we are promoting more exploration to maintain the source of ore or source of inputs to the downstream industries. The government endeavors to boosting exploration and investment. We provide certainty of law. We also provide a scheme for the junior mining company to participate better, including giving them the principle of right to match during the auction. So again, exploration is something very critical right now, especially when we consider that Indonesia is building 53 new smelters, meaning that we have to we have to be sure that we have enough resources to become the input into those refining facilities. That's in general what I would like to share with you this morning. If there are interest to further discuss about it, we'll be more than happy to discuss with you. Thank you, and again, thank you, Bapak Duta Besar Khatulistiwa Logo. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Dr. Ridwan, and appreciate your remarks and the outline of the very conducive policy and regulatory environment in Indonesia, which is providing for greater certainty to the investor. So thank you. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, please. This is Mr. Nurul Ikhwan, Deputy Chairman for Investment Planning, Indonesia Ministry of Investment, or BKPM. Welcome, Papa.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Turner, for giving me time, and His Excellency Ambassador Kristiarto Legowo and Mr. Fedi Kurnia Buana, Indonesia Consulate General in Sydney, and Mr. Kunchoro Giri Waseso, Indonesian Consulate General in Melbourne, and Mrs. Listiana Operananta, Indonesia Consulate General in Perth, Pak Ridwan, terima kasih sudah mengundang Pak, and also other speakers and ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it is a great pleasure for us to be with you in this very uncommon situations, while also leads us into efficient event that we are in Indonesia still having an opportunity to be participating of this event with you all in Australia. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share with you some information in regard to the investment opportunities that we have in Indonesia, especially in the mining and mineral sectors. But before showing you these opportunities, I just would like to share with you about the performance of Indonesia, and especially in terms of investment realizations, because this will give a kind of indications whether or not Indonesia is still an interesting country for doing investment. So if we could see from this data, investment realizations from January to June 2021, we could see that we have already achieved around 49.2% of target for our investment realizations. This is a huge amount that we have to achieve, but for the first semester we have already achieved close to 50%, so it means that we are optimistic that we could achieve the target that we have set. And in terms of the growth of investment realizations, we could see from quarter to quarter, we could see in the second quarter is 1.5%, and for second quarter year on year, it is 16.2% growth, and year on year, January to June, that's 10% of growth. And when we see the comparisons between FDI and DDI, we could see that FDI is still dominating with a slightly bigger shares of 51.6%, while the domestic direct investment is 48.4%. So it's almost balanced. And if we could see also about investment realizations between Java Island and outside Java, we could see here that Java has now only 48.5%, while outside Java has 51.5%. So it means that now the domination is already bigger in outside Java. And all of these investment realizations in terms of labor absorptions, we could have here around 623,715 absorptions of this manpower in Indonesia. And now let me just share with you about the rank of investment realizations from January to June. So as always, Singapore sits on the first rank while we have already understood that Singapore is a kind of hub from many international companies that they do investment in Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. So we receive many investment coming from Singapore, which are not originally Singaporean companies, but this helped us quite a lot as well. So that's why Singapore sits on the first rank. And when we talk about Australia, for this January to June 2021, it sits on the 14th rank. So it is under German, but it is still higher than France, Canada, UK, and also other countries. And I would like to share with you now about the sectors, investment realizations based on the sectors that we have. Still the same period, January to June 2021. So DDI, we could see here that when we talk about mining and metal industry, so for DDI, mining is on the 7th rank for this top 10 investment realization based on the sectors, while for metal and metal goods, except machinery and equipment industry, it is on the 12th rank. But for FDI, the performance is much more better because FDI realizations for metal goods, except machinery and equipment industry, it is on the 1st rank of these top 10 sectors. And for the mining is on the 4th. So that's a good performance for these two sectors. Now, let me share with you about the performance of Australia investment realizations in Indonesia. Yes, we could see that the top achievement that we could have from the realization of investment coming from Australia from 2016 to 2021, it was in 2018. But after that, then the investment from Australia jumped to only 348.3 million US dollars. But then in 2020, it is slightly increased to 348.6 million US dollars. We do hope that by 2021, the performance will be recovering. Now we achieve around 100.7 million US dollars. And when we talk about the top sectors for investment from Australia, it is mining, #1, then followed by food industry, food crops, plantations and livestock, and hotel and restaurant and other services. Then when we talk about the locations for it, so the first destinations from Australia for this investment is West Nusa Tenggara, then followed by South Sulawesi, Maluku, Yogyakarta, and East Kalimantan. On the next slide, we could see here also a good indications about the performance in mineral and metals industry. After the enactment of mining law, we have already understood that mining law, the first we have #4, year 2009, which was stipulated in January 12, 2009. And also we have mining law #3, 2020, that was stipulated from June 10, 2022. So if you could see from here, when this is stipulated, then the performance of mining metal industry has skyrocketed. And from the overall of performance here, we could see that in average for the foreign direct investment has the contributions around 80% of this performance. So it means that foreign direct investment interest in Indonesia mining and metal industry is still high. Now we could see as well another number of info. This is FDI and DDI of nickel ore mining and nickel processing industry. So we could see here, especially for the FDI, it shows a very good performance, is especially increasing from 2018 to 2020. That is skyrocketing as well. Even though the performance for the domestic direct investment, that's up and down from 2018, that's up to 2,070 in 2019, then down again in 2020. But it means that the foreign direct investment is still having a good. And other also spreading Indonesian mineral potential map. We could see here, it means that on the next slide, that we have many of minerals in Indonesia that we could offer to you for having investment in Indonesia. You could name it. We have started from mercury to cyanotime, then nickel, high grade, nickel low grade, iron, tin, gold, bauxite, and copper. So we do have this kind of thing. The number is shown there, from proven reserve up to also the total reserves that we have there. Ladies and gentlemen, now I just would like to jump to the investment opportunities that we have. It means that we have the investment opportunities that we have been conducting this, started from the year 2020. That's langsung ke yang peta peluang investasi aja, Mbak. So we have here the information about the metrics of investment opportunities in, yes, in project profile of smelter industry. Yeah, project profile of smelter industry. Yes, started from here. So started from 2020, we have already composing of opportunities of investment, not only in mining sectors actually, because we would like to have a kind of new approach that when we do a kind of promotions about investment opportunities, that we just try to make a kind of pre-feasibility studies for this, including also in the mining sectors. And for these mining sectors, we just try to take this from the project profile in smelters industry based on a major project that had been indicated by Bappenas here. So we just make a kind of pre-feasibility study of this. On the next slide, so we could have these 6 projects that we could offer to you. The first is Smelter Alumina Refinery, which is located in Riau Islands in the regency of Karimun. Investment value for this is around 530 million US dollars. The IRR is not as big as higher than 12%, but it is below 12%. That's only 9.22%. And net present value is 320.9 million US dollars with a payback period of 11 years. The production capacity per year could be 760,000 tons of SGA. And the second project is Smelter Spunct Iron, which is in Central Kalimantan province, and also Regency is West Kota Waringin Regency, with investment value around 80.12 million US dollars. The IRR is 9.84%, with the NPV 61.5 million US dollars, with the payback period is 11 years, with a production capacity per year 120,000 tons of pig iron. The third is Smelter Steel Billet, located in South Kalimantan province in Kota Baru Regency, and investment value is 435.4 million US dollars with IRR 12.7%. It is better. And the NPV is 94.89 million US dollars. And the payback period is around 11 years. And the production capacity per year is 600,000 tons of steel billet. The fourth is Smelter Ferronickel for stainless steel industry in Central Sulawesi, in North Morowali Regency. So the investment value is 360.35 million US dollars with IRR 15.29%, and the NPV 150.18 million US dollars. Payback period is 8.26 years. It is also better. And the production capacity is 350,000 metric tons of ferronickels. And the fifth, Smelter Nickel Cobalt Sulfate Industry for batteries in South Sulawesi province, in the regency of North Malacca, with investment value of 530.08 million US dollars with 12.44 of IRR, and NPV is 569 million US dollars. Payback period is only 7 years, and production capacity is 144,000 tons of MSP. Last but not least is Smelter Nickel Sulfate Industry in the province of North Maluku in East Halmahera Regency, with investment value of 603.15 million with the RRR 11.25%, NPV $560.28 million US dollars. The payback period is 10 years and capacity 34,000 tons of MSP. So those are the opportunities, the 6 that we could offer. But I do believe that in the Ministry of Minerals and Energy, they have more information. But these are the ones, the 6 of them that had composed by Ministry of Investment in 2020 and now is ready to be offered to you. And for promoting this as well, we have some investment incentives actually. So in general, I could mention that we have a kind of tax holiday, tax incentives, and then also import duty exemptions for raw materials and also equipments, including machineries there. So those are the things that provided by the government of Indonesia. And we have also super tax deduction tax when you are implementing about absorptions of more manpower in your projects, and then also about vocational training program that could be granted by 200% of expenses for this vocational training, and also deductions for the tax up to 300% of the cost for the research and development that will be conducted in your companies. These are also incentives that are provided by the government of Indonesia. And ladies and gentlemen, it is also the spirit of the government of Indonesia by having the omnibus law or job of creation law that we have. Indonesia set already the change of the mind that we would like to make a better competitiveness of Indonesia, while at the same time we would like to make a kind of transformations of our economy that used to be from what you call commodities economy into the added value economy. And we would like also to promote more inclusive investment and economy that will be including of small and medium enterprises to be the partner of investment in Indonesia with big enterprises, both FDI and DDI. I guess those are the things that I could share with you. We do hope by sharing this information, this will increase your understanding about the opportunities that we have in Indonesia. And government of Indonesia, especially the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, and then also BKPM or Ministry of Investment are ready to be your partners. And if you have some questions, we are happy to discuss now, but if you would like to have another time, we still have our representative office here in Australia, in Sydney, which is Indonesia Investment Promotion Centers, with the director of Mr. Henry Rombeda, that will open the opportunities for you to discuss about these opportunities anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nur Ikhwan. I appreciate your comments and some important points there about FDI remaining in the industry remaining quite high, and the fiscal incentives currently in place to enable a more conducive environment. So thank you very much, Bapak.
You're most welcome.
I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Bede Evans, President Director of PT Sumbawa Timur Mining. Welcome, Bede, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. It's very good to be here. I'm just trying to find the file. Is my share? Yes, it's being shared. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank, as everyone has, His Excellency Pa Cristiato Lagowo, the Ambassador for the Republic of Indonesia for Australia, Dr. Ridwan Dajamaluddin, it's very good to see you again, Pa Ridwan. Pa Nurul Ikhwan, thank you very much for your presentation, extremely interesting. And Pa Soni Darmawan, the Commercial Director of MKU. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here and present a quick snapshot of what is a very exciting project, that being the HU project of Sumbawa Timur Mining. If I could go to the next slide, please. Now, those who know or don't know Sumbawa Timur Mining, it's an opportunity for me to refresh your memory. It's a joint venture partnership between Vale, the Brazilian mining company, and Aneka Tambang, part of the Inalum group of companies. Vale owns 80% of that company and purchased that through the Australian private entity called Eastern Star Resources. It's a well-functioning joint venture that's operated with, I guess, Vali managing the joint venture since late 2010. And we, as I'm about to show you, have had quite a degree of success. And I attribute a lot of that success to some of the partnerships that we've built, some of the partnerships that we continue to benefit from, and certainly have done so over the last few years. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of our journey. Now, I could go into enormous detail because 10 years is a very long time, given the extensive history of the project. The Vali entity became involved in the project in that 2010 period and started out very much greenfields exploration, as projects are, albeit some work had been done by the previous contract of work owners. In roughly August 2013, that's when the Onto discovery was made. And I'll be sharing some information on that discovery. Since that time, of course, we've been drilling on and around the Onto resource, of course, to define the size, quantity, attributes of the resource, whilst also concurrently undertaking engineering studies in what we hope will enable the development of a world-class copper gold mining operation. Now, when the new mining law came out I think it was that came out, we were, and as a part of many companies with contract of work, we did renegotiate that contract of work, and that was completed in 2019. And it's since that completion that I'd say the project has really gone to the next stage of development with that, I guess, big milestone behind us. It provided a big foundation for which the investor or shareholders of the company saw the potential and continued to invest at a greater rate to see the project develop. We've since that time benefited enormously and enjoyed enormously the relationship support that we've gained through not only DGMC, certainly other government entities on this call like BKPM, but also filtering down to the provincial level. And I'd say there's been a very tangible change in the last 2 years in terms of the support that companies receive with investment. And we've most definitely been a beneficiary of that. And so where's the project now? If I could go to that next slide, please. We currently are sitting on a resource of 1.7 billion tonnes at roughly 0.9% copper and 0.5 grams per tonne of gold. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an incredibly exciting project and something we're extremely proud about. But I go back to the comment or the presentation from Pa Ridwan and the presentation from Pa Nurul is just the mineral potential in the country. And it's certainly something that we and the shareholders of STM see that a project like this demonstrates the wealth that and the potential that Indonesia contains. We're excited. We have got a shared vision for the project. We see our operation being at least 50 years of mine life, producing up to 36 million tonnes per annum, and what will be a very significant world-class mining operation. Next slide, please. I did mention, you heard about me saying that it was a shared vision, and we do hold this as STM. Something very near and dear to us is that we see ourselves as being a significant contributor to Indonesia and the economic future and prosperity of the country, and certainly to NTB province in which we are based. We see ourselves as being a very important asset going forward, like most of the world-class mining assets are in Indonesia. We see ourselves providing a significant export revenue and industrial growth, And we also see ourselves as being somewhat part of the new paradigm in Indonesia's mining industry. As I said, we've benefited very much, certainly recently, from the relationships that we've had with DGMC and the effort that we've put in towards nurturing those relationships. We've certainly seen a tangible change in the way the ministries like Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources and BKPM have been supporting companies and industries like STM and the mining industry in Indonesia. If I could go to the next slide, please. There's been talk here about the regulatory changes. I think Kathleen gave a very short and good summary at the beginning, and we've recently seen also, and I'd highlight Government Regulation 96, which takes law number 3, I guess, and provides some regulatory conditions around it. And we've been extremely enthused about that. Importantly, we've been able to, through our relationships, talk through with DGMC about what those changes are, how they may impact or influence our decision making. And I think this has been a very collaborative approach to the way the ministry has approached this style of policy reform. I'd also highlight what has not been, I guess, mentioned here or touched on only briefly is over the first half of this year, the significant regulatory and investment regulatory changes that have been made as a part of the Omnibus Law. These have had a rather significant impact, and certainly from our perspective, we're seeing, because our project touches on a number of different regulatory areas, that there have been a number of areas in which we are going to see simplified permitting processes, approvals processes, and that's something that we see is going to only add to the investor-friendly climate that the government is working towards creating. We've certainly benefited also from the strong support of not only the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, but we've seen of late a very tangible change in the way the provincial government has been supporting industries, not only us, but other industries in NTB province. That support has certainly led to some very, very tangible beneficial outcomes for us as a project. I would say that to any company or any entity, and I know I'm probably preaching to a large number of people who know this, investing in relationships and investing in external relationships, whether that be government, business partners, community, etc., is something critical. It's something we hold near and dear and have a significant amount of resources, effort and people put towards that. It's something that's so critical in Indonesia, and I think that's something that has been really part of our success going forward. In terms of how we are a project now looking at making a big step change over this next year, and it's extremely exciting for us. We're certainly moving out of that project of being or moving out of that place of being a project in exploration to being a project under feasibility study and advanced development. And for us, we feel there's a lot of conditions right at the moment. We're extremely enthused by Government Regulation 96 and would encourage definite continued policy reform. We think it's only beneficial. We also see that we've got we're able to tap into a very skilled resource to support the project. We've got a good socio-political environment in which we operate, and we believe that the investment conditions and support that investors like us will receive will only see projects like us taken to the next level. With that, I'd like to move to what I think is my final slide. Once again, I'd like to thank DGMC and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources for organising this discussion. We are also encouraged by the points that Pa Ridwan and Pa Nurul made, that looking to increase and encourage exploration activities in Indonesia. I know we as a company, and certainly the shareholders of STM, share this enthusiasm and very much are interested in exploring what is enormous potential in the country. Government Regulation 96 and similar regulations that have been filtering down from the omnibus process have really made a considerable impact. And we hope that that reform will continue, and we welcome any further support to investment in the mining industry in the country. We want to finally say that, you know, we've been very fortunate with our relationship once again with ESDM, DGMC, provincial government. We thank them for all their support that we've received over the years, but most importantly, it's been a very, very good, close working relationship. It's been one where we can regularly walk into each other's offices, we can share each ideas, and this is important, where we see ourselves as being a partner in the future of Indonesia and having a shared vision. That shared vision being that we together are able to develop a world-class mining operation like the WHO project. With that, Kathleen, I'd like to once again thank everyone for your time, and I'll leave it there for the time being.
Thank you, Bede, and certainly a very encouraging and insightful case study of operations on the ground and some of the grassroots, I suppose, relationships that have been so imperative, and the relationships indeed as you say, at a national and even provincial level, which have been so conducive to your success. Some very, very good points there. The significant impact of the simplification of regulatory processes, the benefits from those relationships, particularly at a provincial level to support industry, the success of those relationships with the community as well, and the skilled resources that you're able to tap into within that landscape as well. So some very good key points. So thank you very much, Bede. I'd now like to go to our next speaker, Mr. Soni Damawan, the Commercial Director of MKU. I'll hand it over to Soni. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Before proceeding, I just want to say thank you to His Excellency Bapak Kristiarto Legowo, Dr. Ridwan Jamaluddin, Bapak Nurul Ikhwan, and also Bede Evans. Thank you for also joining us in this forum session, roundtable. And also, ladies and gentlemen, that managed to spare your time to attend our roundtable session. Now, that being said, I just want to jump into being the last speaker. I just want to jump into what we want to present, basically, all the projects and the opportunities that we have for investment here in Indonesia that are open for market. So next slide, please. Before jumping into the projects, just want to highlight a couple of things that a little bit of glance of Indonesia. Indonesia is basically has the strongest potential growth in mining supply industry in the whole Southeast Asia, with a gateway to over 650 million population in Southeast Asia, currently the third largest market. And based on McKinsey and Company, we are estimated to be the 7th largest economy in the world by 2030, with a population of 272 million by 2020. We have 2 out of the 3 of the population are in working age, with an average age of 28 years old, and a stable economy growth of more than 5% per annum. With over $1 trillion in GDP, and also a member of G20. Next slide, please. Now, jumping into the potential opportunities for investment, it's segregated to two. The first one are mining projects that we have, and lastly for the refining projects. Okay. Now, initially we had three big projects. One is already taken, Pani project. So just recently, so now we have five potential projects. One in both actually located in NTB. So about the same close location with Bede Evans. Now coming into that, the potential blocks are in Pematang project, which has about 37 to 155 ppm in copper, and then 0.47 to 2.28 ppm in silver, as well as 15.2 to 517.6 ppm in gold. I mean in silver, sorry. Now in Sandbar project, the copper is about 28 ppm. The gold is about 2.78 ppm with a silver of 185.1 ppm. Now in Raja project, the resources is it's a little bit more advanced. So we already have the inferred resource numbers. It's 15.1 million gold ore tons with 0.20 to 1 ppm AU. While the reserve is about 14.61 million gold ore tons with 1.81 to 1.91 ppm AU. And Tanjung is also at the same stage, so with slightly below in terms of inferred resources for 5.29 million gold ore tons with 0.2 to 1 ppm AU, with the reserve of a little bit over than 5 million gold ore tons, with 1.2 to 1.7 ppm AU. And lastly, Selodong is estimated with 0.1 to 0.51% copper, with 0.16 to 0.84 in gold. Next slide, please. Now, the next is we're talking about refining projects in Indonesia that is open for investment as well. 5 of which are nickel smelters, with 1 coal to methanol project located in Kalimantan. Now the nickel project spreads within 3 islands that we have in Indonesia, 1 in Java and Banten, which is PT Nickel, Smelter Nickel Indonesia, with an input of 1.2 million ton nickel ore, an output of 36,000 ton MHP, and requires a roughly capex of about $19 million US. Now, for the next nickel smelter is in Central Sulawesi, PT Ang and Fang Brother, with an input of 1.8 million ton nickel ore, an output of 130,000 ton ferronickel, a capex of $130 million. The third one for nickel smelter is located in Sulawesi Island, and also located in Sulawesi Island with PT Arta Mining Industry, with an input of 2 million ton nickel ore, output of 200,000 ton NPI, and a capex, looking for a capex of about $68 million US. And the last nickel smelter is in North Maluku, TK Mining Resources, with an input of 4.3 ton nickel ore, an output of a little bit over 260,000 ton ferronickel, and 48,000 ton MHP, and looking for a capex of about $378 million US. Now, the biggest, and one lastly, is the coal to methanol project by PT Arut Indonesia. The input is about 6 million ton coal with an output of 3 million ton methanol, looking for a capex of slightly below $3 billion US. Now, we were actually just recently informed that what's in the works, we have more opportunities for investment in the works. Can we go to the next slide, please? One more slide. Okay. A total of 10 potential mining areas All these areas are still, again, are in the works, in process of approval, as well as completion for the information memo. But those 10 potential mining consist of 2 nickel mining area in Acera 1 and Acera 3, located in southeast Sulawesi. And then we have 1 galena mining area located in Lumbuk Mas Block, which is in South Sumatra, and 1 iron ore located in Ulu Rawas, also located in South Sumatra, 1 chromite block located in Lenggora, which is basically located in southeast Sulawesi as well. And finally, we have 5 potential mining areas for coal: Baronang 1, Baronang 2, Pioneer, Tumbang Nusa, as well as Lan. This is very exciting because we just recently were informed of this. That's why it's actually outside of the slides that I presented to you guys. But hopefully, when it's on the market, we will definitely inform you as soon as possible. Thank you so much, Kathleen. That's all for now. I leave it all back to you.
Thank you, Pak Soni. And indeed, a very good overview of some exciting project opportunities in Indonesia. So thank you very much for that presentation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've now come to our Q&A session, and we have quite a bit of generous time to cater to that. I would encourage you to type an intention to ask a question with your name and organisation in the chat box. Otherwise, if you're more comfortable, please feel free to ask questions directly to one of the speakers, stating your name and organisation. But I might take the liberty to kick things off in the discussion with a question. And if I may, Dr. Ridwan, ask a question of yourself. So the question I'd like to ask, which potentially will be of interest to most people here, is what have been the effects of COVID-19 on price volatility and on government measures that have contributed to potentially interrupting mining production? I suppose, in other words, are there any unique requirements affecting the mining industry in light of the COVID-19 pandemic? Dr. Ridwan, I'll ask you if you could potentially comment on that.
Kathleen, actually, Dr. Ridwan, Pak DJ, is on the phone with the chairman.
Okay.
Maybe I can help answering your questions, Kathleen?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Okay. I have to say that we are fortunate enough that we don't have any experience with any adverse effect of the pandemic to the price of volatility. As far as we can see, the production rate of some metallics of mineral even rising during the pandemic. For examples, one of examples would be the productions of ferronickel. It increased from 1.1 million tons, become 1.4 million tons in 2020. And some goes also to for the NPI, which produced a total of 160 tons of in 2020. So we don't have any experience with the pandemic, but we do have many strategies to maintain a sustainable supply chain in mining. Firstly, we ensure that the mining operations we are running and we secure the fuel and logistics supply. And the second, we try also to boost the sales by allowing foreign vessels, for example, because right now is a little bit hard to find the vessel. And the third, also we provide the incentive in the form of corporate tax reductions. And the fifth, we also encouraging and allowing export, additional exports for the companies that build or running constructions for doing the to construct the smelter refinery. That's all. Maybe Kathleen.
Thank you, Andre. And Bede, I'd also like you to comment, feel free to comment as well in terms in the context of your experience as well, if you like.
Yeah, COVID obviously was extremely difficult. And I think we started getting nervous in January and then February, very nervous. And then by March, it was, well, we have to do something about this. And the challenge was, I think for everyone, was just uncertainty. It's very hard to operate with such uncertainty. And it was like, I was saying to people, you were looking up in the air and you'd say, we still have that balloon and that balloon and that balloon. And then you'd look up again and then 3 of them were shot. It was just, everything kept dropping. But we just maintained that, you know, in order to get out of it, in order to manage our way through it, it just required an enormous amount of communication internally, communication among the leadership team. And for us, it was, we desperately wanted to keep running. We knew we wanted to keep investing in the region. We knew we wanted to keep people employed. And to do that, we needed to change the way we liaised with government, and particularly the local government, Andre. It was every 24 to 48 hours, we provided them with a formal update of what was happening. And that was one way in which we managed our way through it. And then when we did restart operations after a slight hiatus, I guess, we did inevitably have the COVID cases and things like that. But because we had that communication platform with government, we'd received the support from Andre and his team, who sort of encouraged the government and said, look, these guys need to keep operating. And we did. It certainly made it a lot easier for us. That's for sure. But as a company, we were very proud of the way we managed our way through COVID. We didn't release any employees or contractors. We managed to maintain all local contractors, and contributed also to the Dompu Regency and NTB provincial government with medical supplies and equipment. And so it was certainly a challenge, but I think we certainly didn't waste the crisis, and we've come out of it a lot stronger.
Thank you, Bede. Thank you. Appreciate that. Look, we have a couple of questions that have come in. Jennifer Matthews, Chair of the Australia-Indonesia Business Council in WA. She's posed a question: what do you see as key areas for collaboration in the MET sector, given Australia's strong capabilities in this sector? Can I open this to our speakers?
May I respond first, Kathleen? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess something that is quite strong possible to be done in a collaboration between Indonesia and Australia, when we are talking about the utilizing of nickels and also lithiums combined as the components for battery productions. Because we know that Australia is very strong with lithium productions, while Indonesia is having huge amount of nickels, especially in a limonite level, that could be used combinedly to produce the batteries for electric vehicles. So I guess this is something that should be seen as a kind of huge potentials of collaborations, while Indonesia is still importing of lithium from Australia. But Indonesia is also having a very strong productions of these nickels. If we could open the opportunities linking both investors from Indonesia and also from Australia to be a part of the global suppliers of these EV batteries, that will be a very good opportunities. Since now we are still in the early stage of this era of EV, I guess for the next 10, 20, even more years, we are going to be a part of global supply chains for this, for batteries for EV. But it is taking huge cost of reductions of this EV as well. I guess I would propose to you in Australia and also from some in Indonesia to try to discuss about this possibility for us. Yeah, I guess that's the one from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bapak. We have another question from Stanley Lee. Energy coal prices have risen tremendously of late, and this has actually negatively affected electricity generation in, for example, China. What's the implication for existing coal mining concerns in Indonesia? Can I open this to our speakers? By Andri, possibly?
All right, Kathleen, thank you very much. As we experience for the coal price has risen tremendously, so I would say that we are very lucky, right? Because as Pak Ridwan mentions that we are the fourth biggest producer for coal in the world. So we are now having the windfall profit for the companies who working in coal. But not only the windfall profit, but we also encouraging the mining coal producers to develop the mining coal sector to become more downstream sectors. So as Pak Ridwan mentions that some of the coal contract of work will be obliged to develop the downstreams of the coal, such as coal to methanol or coal to gas and others, increasing the coal qualities, for example. So right now we don't have any plan to cut the productions, or even we right now giving the opportunities for the coal producers to produce and sell coal higher than to increase the productions and also to increase the sales. So that, but then we also to make the equilibriums in domestic market, we oblige the coal mining producers to have the domestic market obligations to supply the coal to the energy to the coal fire power plant in Indonesia. So we are now working for making the equilibriums for domestics and export. That's all, Kathleen.
Thank you, Pak Andri. We have a question from Lucy McLean from AMEC, and this is an extension of the COVID question posed earlier. What is the government's forecast for COVID expectations of industry support and plans into 2023? Pak Nurul Ikhwan atau Pak Andri, please feel free, atau Sony.
Sorry, Bu Kathleen, could you please just repeat the questions for me, please?
Absolutely. So what is the government's forecast for COVID expectations of industry, their support and plans into 2023?
Right, yeah. We see the performance of our government and our people in Indonesia fighting against this COVID-19. It shows that some people claim that Indonesia is one of the best country combating of this COVID-19. So it means that it shows a better spirit of us in doing the things and also in line on the spirit of doing more industry or downstream from this. So I guess the spirit both in government or public sectors and also the private sectors once in Indonesia, it shows a more dynamic and better interest on this. So we do hope that it is a kind of good signals, especially for the realization of investment, because through the signal as well, we could see that we do hope that our economy could maintain of the performance in the right path. And I guess it could also help with the changings of the mindset and also the way we do a kind of transactions. It means that it could see the performance of the volumes that is in goods and services consumptions is still high. Only the way we do a kind of transactions and also the way we transfers of these products that is changed because of this COVID-19. So at least this provide both by design by the government and also by accidents by the communities, that we have the new styles in doing the economic transactions. So I guess this is good. And we see if it is from the perspective of investment realizations, we don't see anything wrong with this, because we could see that the achievement of the target is still on the right track. And even the target for investment realizations that was given to BKPM by the president, it is increased for us. So it shows about the optimism of the government, and especially our leaders, the presidents, that we could achieve something better. And we are also looking at some opportunities that we have in natural resources, especially. It is not limited only for the mining and minerals, but we are looking as well the opportunities that we have in other natural resources, like in fisheries, especially. Currently, I am in Maluku, together with Menko Luhut and also Minister for Transportations. So we see a growing economy that will be supported by this food processing industry that we are having from our natural support. So I guess we are having a big optimism on facing 2023. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Pak Nurul. Appreciate your response. And I'd like to encourage people, if they have any specific questions regarding the projects themselves, to come forward and ask questions in regards to that. In the meantime, though, we do have a couple of additional questions coming in. One from Mark King in regards to IA-CEPA. So what impact have trade agreements like IA-CEPA had on the attractiveness of Indonesia as an FDI destination? And if known, what impact will our SCEP have in the future? Is Dr. Ridwan online?
Yeah, yes, he's still on with the ministry, sir. Miss.
Well, we'll put that one to.
This question, sorry, Kathleen. Maybe this question is appropriate if maybe from IAPC could make some answer, because it is regarding the IA-CEPA. Or from the Ministry of Foreign.
Sure. All right.
Sorry.
There's Arum or Andre, but if it is based on the IA-CEPA, we could see that among others is up to 67% of contract mining services and mine site preparation services. So it means that we give a better shares for foreign direct investment shares in this mining. And it has also another thing in regard to hospitals and also educations. So it means that those three things actually will place a better role, while we are still creating adjustment on the regulations. Actually, And it is not related with the mining one, but it is related with educations, because we have also some regulations existing in Indonesia that will prioritize only for top 200 universities that will be allowed to be operated in Indonesia. But we are still doing some adjustment while Monash University is already operating in Indonesia. And I see another university that will support as well about technological transfers, and then also productions in Indonesia when it is collaborating between universities and also some industries like, let's say, cattle breeding and other things. But we see that Australia as our neighbor, through this IACPA, we could see the enthusiasm coming from both sides. And we have already discussed as well the possibility of inviting education technology in farming, especially coming from Central Queensland University. We've been discussing about this possibility, and we see as well the possibility of investment in cattle breeding coming from Australia to Indonesia, when this educational investment could be realized, because they will bring about these opportunities together with the investors coming from Australia that will take a kind of collaborations between Indonesia and Australia to supply the meats not only for the market of Indonesia, but other world. And we've been having some meetings with regencies in eastern part of Indonesia, talking about the possibility and the participations coming from the government and also from the populations, the communities in West Papua especially, that they are willing to share the land that they have, about 3,000 hectares, to be utilized for this kind of project. So I see preparations ground is already since very good. Now we just make a kind of some adjustment in some regulations that will smoothen the way of reaching this agreement into a good performance. Kathleen.
Thank you, Pap. Thank you very much for your response. But Sonny, I think this question may be one that you could potentially comment on. This is from Michael Conan Davies. Could you run through the IUP auction process? How does it work? And are the projects you talked about the only ones available at the moment? Is there a way to obtain greenfield exploration tenure?
Okay, thank you, Michael, for the question. So basically, in relation to the greenfield, the government, like I mentioned before, the government is still finalizing the list of both projects. The one that I showed you are the ones that are already in progress of approval as well as completion for the information memo. I have your contact. I will surely let you know once even the process of the auction is finalized by the government. We will share to you immediately, so that you will be able to attend. And to answer your question, of course, yes, there will be a way because the government is very supportive in terms of exploration, as mentioned by Dr. Ridwan, Pak Andri, Pak Nurul, to promote junior mining companies to be able to get in and have a lot more exploration projects happening in Indonesia. So that being said, once the process for the auction is finalized, we will definitely let you know as soon as possible.
Thank you, Pat Sonny. Thank you. We have another question from Stanley. So Stanley has posed the question, infrastructure, transportation, electricity has traditionally been a huge problem in getting value add. For example, refining projects getting off the ground. What can be done to tie raw materials projects with refining projects so that the scale of the former can create a more realistic chance for downstream products to get financed? Can I put that to the speakers?
I'm not sure if I'm going to answer this properly or in detail, but I'll chip away, and Pa Andrew, you might be best to pick up where I leave off. Government Regulation 96, which has recently been issued, is certainly something, and I'm sharing our experience here, that is quite interesting and exciting for the shareholders of STM. That provides different divestiture timeframes based on, Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, whether you're a vertically integrated operation, in that if you have downstream own processing operations, if the foreign entity does not need to invest or start divesting, sorry, to 51% until, or 49%, sorry, until the 20th year of production. Now, if you were to partner with another entity, a joint venture in a smelter or whatnot, that changes, I think, to 15 years. Is that correct, Andre? So I think the government there has tried to incentivise certainly investment in that side, in the downstream side of the processing. And for us, STM, particularly being with Vali as 80% shareholder, that has been a significant change that side of the joint venture is definitely reviewing now in terms of divestment timeframes, etc.
Okay, Kathleen, can I put more information? Okay, thank you, Pak Bit. Very clear and very insightful explanations. But I will put some additional information. For as we released the government regulations number 96, it is stipulated that some incentive will be given to a mining permit holder who built the refineries with the integrated systems. So mining and refine by the same entities. So there are at least 3 benefits that we can, who conduct the refineries domestic. First, they will be able to get the license extensions following the life of mine. So following the reserve, the age of the reserves. So that's the first benefit. It is to increase the appetite of the investors to giving more investments in the refineries or in the downstreams. The second is, as Pak Bit mentions, for the companies who build the refineries integrated, and even if they are conduct mining with the underground systems, so it may it may requiring the more investment value than compared to open pit system. So for the companies who conduct the mining by underground and within integrated systems, the divestment scheme will be started years 20. So it will be more easy and more soft for companies who build the integrated system. And the third one, in our new government regulations also, we will give some benefit with giving even the cheaper royalties tariff. Even it is stated in the mining law that even we can give 0% royalties tariff if we conduct for some commodities, for example, for coal. If you build the methanol, so we right now doing calculating the best scheme to make the financial models or financial schemes better for the downstream industry. So one of them is to giving the less or giving the cheaper tariff royalties. Maybe that's the 3 benefits which able to encouraging the refineries in domestic. Kathleen.
Thank you, Pa Andre. Jeffrey Gold, I've noted your question regarding IA-SEPA. If I may just kindly park that to one side, and perhaps there will be opportunity to talk about IA-SEPA a little further down the track. but I'm going to revert to a question posed by David West. Welcome, David. So David's question, and possibly Patsoni, you may be able to answer this question. David has asked, with the investments be able to purchase 6,000 series ingot?
Your connection was interrupted. Can you repeat, Kathleen?
Apologies about that. I'll just repeat the question. So David asked the question, with the investments in aluminium smelters, are there expectations Australian extruders may be able to purchase 6,000 series ingot?
Okay, hold on. Trying to look at the questions in the chat box. It's not there. Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry, Kathleen.
Perhaps I'll ask David. David, would you like to ask this question directly? That may be appropriate.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you. We extrude aluminium in Australia, and my company CQI designs and manufactures extrusion dies, and my main company, Extrusions Australia, extrudes. But one of the weaknesses we have is the purchase of ingot, because all of the ingot that we purchase is on the other side of the globe. And we are aware of Inalum in Indonesia, a very large smelter, but I note during the presentation there's other smelter investments being made for aluminium extrusion. Would there ever be a chance? It's a very wide question. I do know that Australian extruders would ever be able to purchase 6,000 series ingot from Indonesia.
Okay, it's not a specific, but it's also a wide answer. But
yeah,
I'll try to
I do know. I understand.
Okay.
I understand, Bapak. Yeah.
Possibility, of course, there is, but again, where MKU stands is that we will try to connect you and the potential seller or the project owner, so that we can discuss further later on. I think Kathleen will also inform that we understand that this is a very short session, right?
Yeah, understood.
And we will try our best to accommodate your needs and try to connect you with a project owner. Whether it is possible or not, of course, it's going to require further discussion on it. Yeah.
Thank you, Bapak.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Sonny.
Cheers, Kathleen.
All right. Look, we have another question that's come in from Susanto from PT Nusantara Bintang Management, and his question: will there be a new formula for kompensasi data informasi as a basic price for the auction of mining areas? I believe it had been one of the challenges before that impacted the lack of interest from investors. Can I put these to the speakers? Pak Andri, silakan.
Yes, I will sharing these questions. Yes, Pak Susanto, thank you for the very good questions. So right now, actually, we are working to calculating and doing the best formulating. So right now we are trying to change the formula to calculate the investments compensations, which not only based on the areas, but also based on the previous data that I will provide by the government. So we not only talking about the spatial, but also about the qualities of the data. So we realize that this one also the biggest challenge. That's why not many greenfield explorations coming to Indonesia. So we will working on it. So that's why what Pak Sony mentions about the 10 potential mining areas is right now still going, still evaluating by the ministry and by the legals also by the legals, and also with the formula, with the formula, the new formula will be implemented with, for that 10 potential mining area. So, Kathleen, I will also put some more information. If from the first questions, what would be the strategic strong point that Australians can be cooperate with Indonesia? Pak Nurul also already mentions that not for the batteries industry, but also in very upstream industry. There, Pak Ridwan also mentions in the slide that there are some lag on the copper, since we have the seventh biggest reserve in the world, but right now we still in the 12 producers of copper. So we have a lot of, I believe, the Australian company is very experienced with the explorations for the copper, for the porphyries deposit. So I believe this is also the best cooperations that can we cooperate for the futures, but not only the copper, but also with the gold. Where gold is very challenging in during the exploration stage. So we believe that with all your experience in the explorations, so there's still a lot of potentials area that will be able to cooperate with Australian companies. That's my additional information, Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Andri. And just a reminder to all participants that the presentations from today's event will be sent via email to everyone, so you will all get a copy of that. Look, we have about 8 minutes left. There are a couple of questions here that I'd like to pose. And this one perhaps, Bede, in your experience, you may be able to comment on, but please, other speakers, feel free to also comment. What has been the reaction of provincial governments and regencies to the mining law and some of the regulatory reforms that have been spoken about earlier?
Okay. Well, from just tangibly, Pak Andri, from our side, we haven't seen any real issue nor concern from provincial government raised. What it has changed is that some of our more operational permits, instead of being administered or approved by at the provincial level, now go back to the ministry level. And so there was a bit of confusion, I guess, initially with the change, because it came out quite quickly. But the example being one of our environmental permits, but we've had great support with DGMC and EBTKE, the renewable energy and energy conservation DG, in overcoming those issues, and the transition has been smooth. All I've seen from the provincial government, and we've had meetings with them last week, has been strong advocates and supporters of the project. So I haven't seen anything negative. Pak Andri?
Thank you, Pak Bede. Thank you, Pak Bede. It was the real experience from Pak Bede, right? So actually, there are no reluctance from the provincial government. So because by the previous the mining sector was managed under the central government. So, but then after the new enactment new mining law, there will be the new equilibrium. Why? Because for the next, some of commodities that not really strategic will be delegates to the province. For examples like rock, non-metallics, mineral. Later on will be delegates to the province. Because the central government will only manage the strategic commodities such as the metals, minerals, and certain non-mineral metals, but the critical minerals. So for the infrastructures minerals, later on we will still working to making the new presidential decree to delegate the non-strategic minerals to the local. So there will not be any reluctant or any negative impact for the continuations of the sustainability of mining. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Andre, and thank you, Bede, for your response as well. Look, I'd like to also inform the participants that if there's any interest to have one-on-one meetings with ESDM, the Indonesian Ministry of Energy and Resources, or you'd like to have one-on-one meetings with MKU or talk to the project owners, you can contact Pak Soni directly. His email is in the chat box if you would like to note that. We do have about 5 or 6 minutes left. There is another question, and this one's particularly dear to my heart. There was a lot of rhetoric at the moment about ESG, environmental and social government standards. And so the question here from Thomas Krumer, he's posed, how do Indonesians' environmental, social and governance ESG standards compare to other mining countries? So I'll open that up for speakers to respond to.
I respond first, Kathleen.
Silakan, Pak.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this is also our concern. So it means that for the last couple of years, even started from the COP in 2015, right, when we have a commitment to reduce the carbon emissions, government has been thinking about the implementations of this and involvement of some ministries and other institutions in Indonesia. So currently, in our Bappenas, they have already indicated about the possibility of us taking role in carbon trading and also other things. But to our understanding, this could be supported also by the collaborations of technology and also expertise. So if, let's say, Japan mentions about communities 5.0, that the backbones are technology, innovations, and also human capitals, right? So in this case, we are actually still looking for the support coming from other countries like, let's say, Australia. Like, let's say, when we are talking about the potentials that we have in a mining, even though this mining is huge amount we have in Indonesia, but at the time, the supply of the electricity is coming from power coal generations, which will be currently is still dominating around 60% of it in Indonesia. We have to see is a kind of urgent shifting of the supply. Otherwise, this will be a serious challenge for Indonesia. Why? Because European countries, they have already set the CBAM, right? Then they are going to start to counting about the contributions of carbon for every products that will be imported into European countries. They will start in 2023 to calculate this, and they will impose of the additional costs of these goods when it is imported into Australia based on that calculations. And even if the country will not be able to count about this carbon contributions, so European Union will do by their own about these things. So it means that having huge abundance of natural resources in the future will not be something exclusive anymore, because the market has already been educated that they are willing to pay something more expensive as long as it is giving contributions into the protections to our earth. So this is the things that I have also actually in mind about the questions that I would like to raise to Evans actually about these things. So what should be Indonesia's sense in the way of shifting of the supply of energy? Because for Indonesia, if you are talking about renewable energy, we have also many alternatives. We have a geothermal, we have wind, we have waves, we have, you just name it, we are able to do so. but the question is about the willingness of the operator and the off-takers and also the government in a very serious way of providing this, because it is already stated that by 2050, by COP, that we are going to be zero carbon, but more than 1,100 companies globally, they would like to do so by 2040. It means that in the private sectors, they will respond this faster than the governments around the globe. And this should be something response by Indonesia. Otherwise, this huge amount of natural resources will mean nothing, because they are not going to buy anything from Indonesia, because all the things produced in Indonesia, if it is still supported by coal mining power generations, they are not going to buy this. So I guess the government currently, and even Ministry of Finance, the minister herself, thinking about the possibility of making a kind of right funding of a shifting about this technology into the more sustainable one. So I guess we are aware of the situations, but we are also looking for the input and collaborations, especially in the technological side, to support this kind of shifting of this energy. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Pak. B, did you have any brief comment as well, perhaps on your on-the-ground experience on the ESG agenda and its trajectory in Indonesia?
Very quickly, I'd say that the regulatory environment related to particularly environment and social standards, environment in particular, is very solid in Indonesia, and it's very prescribed. And we certainly, as governed by the Board of Commissioners and Board of Directors of STM, apply industry-leading, world-leading practices, and by and large, they're consistent with Indonesian regulatory requirements. And Pa Andri's colleagues in the Mining Technical Division of DGMC, the standards and policies that they uphold are very much consistent with international best practice. The challenge, I think, is local application, particularly with local contractors, local workforces, where you're trying to build a culture of health and safety, build a culture of environment, social governance, those kind of things. That's the challenge that companies face. And you know, through sustained effort, campaigns, education, awareness, I think you can get there, and companies certainly can.
Thank you, Bede. I appreciate your perspective on that important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, look, we are drawing to a close. So I'd just like to make a couple of key points here as a reminder. The presentations for today's event will be sent to all participants, so please expect that in your email. As I mentioned earlier, if you're keen for a one-on-one meeting with the Ministry of Energy and Resources or MKU Services, or indeed would like to know more detail from project owners, please feel free to contact Pak Soni. His email address is in the chat box, and I'm sure he'll be very willing to help you as much as he can. I'd like to thank everyone for their participation. Thank you to His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia. Thank you to our Consul Generals and our Consul General in Sydney and his team for organising this event. Thank you, Bede, Pak Nur Ikhwan, Pak Andri, Pak Soni, Pak Ridwan. Thank you all for your time today, and thank you everyone, and we hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Terima kasih, Pak Dubes, Pak Konjen, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Thank you. Pak Ridwan, terima kasih, Pak.
Thank you. Terima kasih, thank you.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih semuanya, Pak Deputi, Pak Dirjen.
Terima kasih. Thank you.
Teman-teman, semangat terus.
Terima kasih, Pak Soni. Yes.
Terima kasih, Pak Nur.